Namaste everyone. In today's video, we're going to focus on Muni Patanjali's Yoga Sutra 4.19. Now in this particular Yoga Sutra, Muni Patanjali is explaining to us what the nature of the Chitta is and why this Chitta is not the ultimate perceiver. So let's take a good look at this sutra, which is quite a short and compact one, and let's start breaking it up word by word to understand it even better and to understand the difference once again between the Chitta and the Purusha. So the sutra itself goes, Na tat svabhasan drishyatvat. Alright, so this is the sutra itself. Just a few words there. We're going to break them up and understand what they're trying to communicate. So the first word here is na, which means not. The second one is tat, which means that. The third one is svabhasa, which is basically a compound word. Sva means the self and abhas means illumination. So the word together means self-illuminating. And then the next word is drishyatva. So this means something that can be perceived, because drishya means something which is seen and drishyatva is the potential to be seen. Alright, so these are the words in this sutra. Now let's understand what the sutra is trying to tell us. So essentially the sutra is saying that the drishya, which is the chitta itself, is something that is basically able to be perceived, and therefore it is not self-illuminating. Right? So this is a very important concept to understand the difference between the chitta and the purusha. Because a lot of times we get confused and we think the chitta or the consciousness is self-illuminating, means it's conscious on its own. But as the Sankhya theory says, and as yoga theory also believes, the conscious principle, which is the chitta, gets its consciousness from the purusha. So purusha has the latent potential for consciousness, and when it comes in contact with the chitta, it gives the chitta that ability to become conscious. So purusha can be considered latent consciousness, and then chitta is active consciousness, as the purusha transfers that ability to be conscious, to get incited, to awaken onto the chitta. So why is this important with respect to the previous sutra especially? In the previous sutra we learned that the purusha is immovable, it is very stable, and therefore the purusha can be used to understand what is going on in the chitta. Because the chitta vrittis keep on changing, but the purusha is stable and constant. So therefore, if the chitta keeps on changing and something else is able to perceive it, that means the chitta is not the ultimate perceiver. It's clearly yet another object. So if you look at it this way, the ultimate perceiver is the purusha, which has the power to even perceive the chitta. So that is a really fantastic power that the purusha has, and that's the ability that the purusha itself cultivates and then kind of transfers into the chitta as an active consciousness principle. So that's what the sutra is trying to tell us. Now, the best example to understand this is the sun and the moon and the light of the sun. So very often we see the moon as a brightly lit object, especially at night, and we might assume that perhaps this light is coming from the moon itself. But actually it's the reflected light of the sun. So that is very similar to what's going on with the Purusha and the Chitta. The Purusha is the sun. It has that, latent potential. It has its own light. It's a star in that sense. And then it kind of shines that light upon the moon in this case, which can be considered the Chitta. And that moon then reflects that light back and appears visible. So this is exactly what's happening in the Chitta. It's receiving the consciousness from the Purusha, and so it appears as if the Chitta is the ultimate conscious principle, but it is not. It receives it from the Purusha, and the Purusha is self-illuminating like the sun and passes on that light in a way into the Chitta, which incites the Chitta, makes it come alive as active consciousness in order for the organism to function throughout the day. So this is a key difference, very important thing to realize between the Purusha and the Chitta, and how the Purusha has that latent potential for consciousness which it transfers and makes active in the Chitta. And if you ever get confused, always remember the example of the sun and the moon, and the light of the moon, how it's not its own but that of the sun. So if you keep this relationship in mind, it becomes much easier then to understand things deeply and to really understand this relationship between the sun and the moon, and also the Purusha and the Chitta. So this is what we're talking about in Sutra 4.19. I hope you've been able to understand this, especially through the example of how the Purusha is the immutable, still, self-illuminating principle, which just gives a little bit of its quality over in the active form to the Chitta. And that's all for Sutra 4.19. If you've enjoyed this particular video, please feel free to give it a big thumbs up, and also leave your comments, thoughts and suggestions in the comments box below. Also, please feel free to share this video with your friends and family, especially those who are studying the Yoga Sutras or yoga philosophy. Along with that, also subscribe to the channel because we release new videos every single week, and we'd love to stay connected with you so you can receive all the updates. Now, we'd love to see you in a future class, course or workshop, the links for which are in the description. So either we'll see you there or we'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care, keep practicing. We look forward to seeing you in the next one. Namaste.